everybody. Can hear me. Hi. What a fabulous crowd. You just get bigger and bigger every week. I love it. Before we get started, I wanted to acknowledge and thank Care One at Sharon for sponsoring the refreshments today. We always appreciate that. Okay, now the main attraction. Bob Schick is a member here. You may have seen him out and about in your travels. So coming to get to know Bob, we found out that he had a career as an assistant director in the film industry, and he's got so many wonderful stories to share. So we're going to hear from Bob and his brushes with fame today. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks to all of you guys for coming, and especially thanks for Carrie and Debbie for doing this coffee and conversation thing. This is really cool. I've been to a few of them myself, and let's give them a round of applause for all the work they do around here. All right, so like Debbie said, I spent some time working on films, TV shows, commercials, industrials, all kinds of stuff. And I have a few stories that I can tell in mixed company and everything. And I'm going to show some clips from some films, and it's important to note that some of the clips are R-rated. So is anybody here under 17? Okay, all right, we're good, we can keep going. So let me start at the bottom, which is where I started in this illustrious so-called career. I started out as something called a production assistant, which is the gopher. Go get me some coffee, go do this, go do that. Do the thing that nobody else wants to do because it's your job, pal. And when we would shoot things like on a location somewhere outdoors, there were a lot of times where we could not have people driving through the shot. So that was called traffic lockup. We would stop pedestrians and cars from rolling through where we were shooting. And that was an important job, but also it was pretty tedious. You would spend hours on a corner somewhere just, nope, you can't go yet. Nope, you can't. Cut. Okay, now you can go. That was pretty glamorous so far, isn't it? We were also told most of the time, don't bother the actors. We don't want PAs always going up to actors and, asking them questions because they're trying to focus on their job and everything. So there were no brushes with fame early on for the most part. Also, the work was pretty long, 14 to 16 hours a day, for real. And I mean, I can count the number of times I worked less than a 12-hour day on one hand, and I did this for like 12 years. They are very, very long hours. You're on your feet all the time. I used to be 6'2" and 225, and look at me now. But eventually I worked my way up to what's called an assistant director, and I worked hard enough that I got into something called the DGA, which is the Directors Guild of America. I was in the same union as Martin Scorsese and John Hughes and all the directors you've heard of. And that meant the pay went up, which was awesome, and the duties changed. So one of the things that we used to do as assistant directors, as ADs, was we would set background actors. A lot of times you'll have a handful of actors in a scene that are up front, close to camera, and they're having the dialogue with each other. But if the scene, say, takes place in a restaurant, there's also people that are eating in the background, and there's waiters and waitresses, and there's busboys and people like that are just going through. And we place those people there, and they're paid extras. They make like maybe $80 or $100 a day, and they don't have any lines, and all they do is go in the background and be diners or servers. We would set them up while the director would actually direct the actors that had all the lines, all the big shots. There was loads of paperwork with this job. There were things called call sheets and daily production reports that were just enormously detailed, which meant that we were often the first people on a set and the last people out to get the last out times for people who were working. Grips and electrics and hair and makeup and the Teamsters and everybody needed to check out with us. So we ended up still with the 14 to 16 hour day, but my pay had gone up considerably, and I also had union representation and all the stuff that goes with being in a union. By the way, I also want to mention that if at any point any of you guys have any questions, so you don't have to listen to me nonstop for a full hour. A question, thank you. A grip. Okay, the grips handle the lights, big, huge, up to 10,000 watt lights, 10Ks. And they bring them out to the set, and they set up flags around them so it can direct the light right on the actors, or on the background, or on trees, or whatever. Electricians power those lamps, power those lights. Great question.
Can I ask you, where was this taking place? Probably not here.
Oh, I actually have worked in the Boston area a few times.
It would be in Los Angeles where all the movies
I was in Boston more than I was in LA. Chicago, Massachusetts, Alabama, Florida. If that's for me, I'm not here, okay? All over the country. Oregon, Montana. Yeah, people shoot on locations all over the U.S. I never left the country but to shoot, but yeah, all over the place. Oh, good, I love questions. Okay. All right, here's where we're going to have a little bit of class participation. Here are some of the big names that I've actually worked with, okay? I'm going to give you a name, and somebody in here has to tell me a movie they worked on. Harrison Ford? The Fugitive. What a good movie I worked on. Yes. Okay. Tommy Lee Jones. The Fugitive. How about another one? Men in Black. Yes, and all the Yes, nobody knows about that one. Very good. Oh boy, you're going to be my star pupil here. All right. Meryl Streep, you may have heard of her. Mamma Mia, of course, yes, yes. The most decorated actor in history, Oscars, actor or actress. I feel they're all actors. Tom Hanks, Big. Another one. Oh, what a good film. Yes, Green Mile. He's so good, isn't he? He's like the Gary Cooper of, our time. Martin Sheen. Yes. Yep. That famous Boston movie, The Departed. Yeah. I'm working on my accent. I just moved here a year ago. Departed. Yeah. The West Wing. Okay. Yeah. Terrific actor. Nicole Kidman. Moulin Rouge, yes. I worked with her on a film called Damages. And there's all kinds of beautiful actresses in Hollywood. Many of them look like the rest of us until they spend a couple hours in the makeup chair and the hair chair. Nicole Kidman was not one of those women. Oh my God. She would show up on the set at 5 a.m. She's just rolled out of bed and she's getting ready to get made up and get ready for shooting. And she still was just, wow. But I digress. Okay. Keanu Reeves. Yep. There you go. Speak. Oh, Bill and Ted. Totally. Yes, absolutely. Gene Hackman. Rest in peace. Recently passed away, Gene Hackman. The French Connection. Tremendous movie. Kind of put him... What did he do? Well, great film to have a small part in. Really excellent film. Samuel L. Jackson. Yep, very good. Snakes on a Plane. Also, strange film. Alec Baldwin. Oh, Glengarry Glen Ross. Always be closing, right? We got a few more of these, but I'm just saying all these people I had a chance to work with. Kevin Bacon. Yep. You know the whole story behind 6 Degrees of Separation and 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon? The concept is that Kevin Bacon has worked in so many Hollywood films that you don't have to go for everybody who's worked in Hollywood is 6 degrees or less away from Kevin Bacon. For example, Kevin Bacon worked on Stir of Echoes, which was a film I also worked on, so I have only 1 degree of separation from Kevin Bacon. We're recording this now, right? So you're all working with me. 2 degrees of separation, 2 degrees of Kevin Bacon for everybody in here. Give it up for yourselves, folks. Here we go. Morgan Freeman? Shawshank. Oh my gosh. Anytime I'm surfing, TV, and any scene in that film comes up, I'm locked in. Have to keep watching that, right? He is also, I think he's played God in more films than anybody else. Casting. George C. Scott. Patton. Yes. If you're a veteran, you absolutely knew that one. Let me tell you a quick George C. Scott anecdote. I worked with him on the same film that had Nicole Kidman in it, Damages, and we sent him a call sheet that says, here's when we're going to pick you up and have you come into work. And my boss made the mistake of saying that he wanted him to be picked up at 6 a.m. And this is George C. Scott. Actually, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. This was Mr. George C. Scott, okay? Patton, one and the same. He sent us a fax, and I saved it after all these years. And he sent this to my boss. He said, "Dear Mr. Kelly, you folks are terrific. I haven't been subjected to a 6 a.m. pickup in 25 years. I don't think Mr. Becker really wants me in his film." That was the director. "Kindly postpone the pickup Monday to the ungodly hour of 7:30. Thank you, George C. Scott." I think we made it 8, because he's Mr. George C. Scott. John Candy. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Uncle Buck, Home Alone. I was on those last 2. Wonderful person. One of the things that I had to do as a PA was walk him from his trailer to the set when we were ready to shoot, when all the lighting and everything was done. And every time I walked him to set, there were people ready to shake his hand, to get an autograph, to take a picture with him. It's before everybody had a phone in their pocket, so they had all the little point and shoot things. Selfie hadn't been, wasn't a word yet. But he took time every single time to talk to people. And he was truly gracious about the whole thing. I never met a big name actor that was more humble and appreciative of the career he had and the money that he made from it and everything. He absolutely was just such a gent. And I was on a different film in Los Angeles for one of the few times. And a phone call came into the production office that then came to the set that said that John Candy had passed away while he was shooting another film. He was down in Mexico. It was a Western. He was a big guy, and he was dressed in all this leather stuff, and it was really hot and everything, and he passed away right on the set. And when the phone call came to our set, everything stopped. People all gathered around camera. I never saw this happen before or since. And people just cried and swapped stories. Nearly everybody in there had some contact with him, and everybody had great stories. He was special. Loved working with him. Joe Pesci? Anything by Scorsese, pretty much, right? Yeah, and Home Alone, which is where I ran into him. So did my wife, by the way. Jeannie here worked on that show as a PA for a little while. And after we're all done here, she can tell you a couple of Joe Pesci stories. Bruce Willis? Oh, yeah. Moonlighting. That was what, made him a star. That's what put him on the map. Yeah, he was a good guy, too. He tried to get me fired off a film once. And I went to my boss and I said, "I think Bruce is really mad at me. I'm not sure why." And he said, "Well, Bruce can't fire you. Only I can fire you." I'm like, "Oh, okay. You might want to tell Bruce." Alan Alda? MASH, and so many other things, 4 seasons. Just a terrific guy, terrific actor. Jessica Lange. King Kong, all right, going back to the very beginning. She also worked on a film called Men Don't Leave, which was my very first film. It's also where I met my wife. And then I promptly went on location shooting for the next 12 years all the time, even though that film was called Men Don't Leave. Irony much? All right, Steven Seagal. Under Siege. Trying to think, he was more of a movie star than an actor. I've heard it said of him that he could convey all of the emotions from A to B. But he could also kick butt too, and that's what really counted in a Steven Seagal film. How about Madonna? League of Their Own? Yeah, quite a career. All right, have you seen these films? Have you seen The Fugitive? Raise your hand if you have. Ooh, I like that. Home Alone. That's got to be almost universal. The River Wild. I highly recommend you go find that one and look at it. It's a terrific film that I worked on. The Replacements. It's about the striking football players that had Keanu Reeves in it. We shot loads of that in Baltimore's football stadium, PSI Stadium back then. Mercury Rising. Hidden gem in the Bruce Willis catalog. He was in that and he was terrific. Along Came a Spider. Morgan Freeman, right? The Negotiator. There's a Samuel L. Jackson, Kevin Spacey, lots of other good character actors with loads of wild stunts in that. Murder at 1600. Wow, deep dive. That's not the most popular film, but A League of Their Own. Woo! There's no crying in baseball. The West Wing. Yeah. When I worked on The West Wing, all they did was they came to Washington, D.C. to shoot exterior shots, okay? You know how all that stuff that takes place in the White House and the Oval Office, all shot in Canada. All of it. But when you wanted to see the reflecting pool or the Washington Monument or the White House in the background, you shot in Washington, D.C. And when they came to D.C., they would just shoot the exteriors for various episodes on location. Uncle Buck, Macaulay Culkin's breakthrough film. Under Siege, Steven Seagal of the Steely Stare. Madonna, Truth or Dare. That was a documentary done about life backstage with her, as well as a lot of performance video. Contact, great film. Oh my gosh, most people haven't heard of that or seen it. Jodie Foster is in it. It's a fabulous, wonderful film. Dig that one up if you can. Men Don't Leave. Yes, we do. Stir of Echoes. Another terrific Kevin Bacon film that shot in Chicago. Wonderful, wonderful guy to work with. All right, so I'm going to start showing you clips of films that I worked on where we did things that I was particularly proud of or that I thought were noteworthy. So The Fugitive, of course, features Harrison Ford. Tommy Lee Jones actually won the Oscar that year for this role for Best Supporting Actor, which is pretty cool. Jane Lynch was in it in kind of a smaller role. She's gone on to a lot of really cool things, but if you go back and look at it, you see her in this wonderful little role as a nurse. And Julianne Moore was in that, who is also a fine actress. I'm just pausing here for a second to point two things out. One is that's a real bus that we actually rolled down the hill. There's no CGI, no computer-generated imagery. It did not have all the guys in it. Harrison Ford wasn't going boogity-boogity-boogity. But we actually sent that thing off the road. The second thing is you're going to find out that it's about to land on some train tracks. And we used a real train to smash into this. We also wrecked the train on purpose, by design. And I'll give you a little background as you're watching it to show you, like how we did it. We're down in North Carolina for this. Most of the film is shot in Chicago, but we're in North Carolina. And there were some abandoned train tracks that we used, and we got our own train and everything. And we had a switch where it's like, here comes the train down this long straightaway, and then we put in a switch here. So the train would actually go off of the tracks onto this other set of tracks that we dug a big ditch, and we put the train tracks lower and lower and lower. So the train would derail by design. They spent weeks planning this. There was something like 12 or 14 cameras there to get every single angle. We only had one take we could do. There was no, well, let's do it again. So keep that in mind as you see what comes next here. Okay, I also want to point out one other thing. None of this was done with any CGI either, except for one tiny little shot that's about a second long. And I'll shout out, there it is, when it comes up. Other than that, it's us just, wrecking a train and stuff. There it is. Okay. Next film I'm going to show you a little clip from is Uncle Buck. In this scene, Uncle Buck is driving his niece to school, and Jeannie is actually in the scene. This was my second film that... Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Never cut off your wife's applause. Ever. In this scene... Uncle Buck is, it's funny, I don't want to spoil anything, but these films have all been out for 25 years. I mean, if you haven't gotten around to seeing all my films, it's on you at this point, okay? But he's driving her to school, and we had a scene where there was a bunch of school kids and a handful of teachers out there when he pulls up and makes this big scene. And this was the second film I ever worked on, so I thought, what better way to impress my new girlfriend, Jeannie, than put her in the film. So I got, the powers that be to say, sure, she can be one of the extras. And that's what happened. So this is a movie that had John Candy, Macaulay Culkin in his kind of breakthrough role, a really nice young girl named Gabby Hoffman, who was a little younger than Mac and has gone on to a neat career in a lot of art films. It's got Gene Kelly in it. Not Singing in the Rain Gene Kelly, but a teenage girl named Gene Kelly. But I used to tell people all the time, I just made a movie with Gene Kelly. And Jeannie Littman playing a teacher. All right, now, one of the things right off the bat, this is my second film, and a fun little thing that I happen to have something to do with is, this is what's on the DVD, or back then I think VHS tape. And this was done in a couple of different shooting sessions. And when they were all trying different things to do on this side of the door, I was a guy who was holding on to the door so the whole thing wouldn't just tip over. And a photographer on the set got a quick little shot of it, and it was kind of fun. What, the guy with the hair? Say it. Just say it. Oh, my. One of the things that kids on a set have to do is go to school while they're having a shooting day. If you work on a show for 2 or 3 months, you don't just take 2 or 3 months off of school. And we shot this, I think, in the winter and springtime. And so we happened to be working on Valentine's Day. And the teacher, who taught all these kids of different ages and everything, said, you want to make a Valentine for anybody on the set? And they said, let's make one for Bob. I know. So Gabby, the girl, made this one. Macaulay Culkin made this one. Something about girls and boys and art and... But I've kept it all these years. And none of the Valentine cards I've ever received have meant more to me than this, other than all of them from my wife and daughter. Every single one. And there we are on set that day when he did the big boom with his car and everything. There's Jeannie and I and John. All right. Now, Home Alone. Love that film. Who does not? Isn't it wild how it's turned into like a Christmas standard? Macaulay Culkin's in it. Catherine O'Hara, who is just a wonderful, wonderful. I should have had her in like that Hall of Fame at the beginning, right? You know, all of those names. And she's having a really cool Renaissance career for a woman who's in her 70s. It is not easy to find roles, and she's getting some fantastic roles, and she's terrific in them. The Last of Us, The Studio. She's just amazing. Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern, of course. Kieran Culkin is Mac's little brother, who just won an Oscar recently. And I saw a quote from Macaulay Culkin saying that they have one Oscar between the two of them. This was filmed from March to May of 1990. And here's something I want to point out before I show you this clip. It takes place around Christmas, but we shot in March, April, and May. It did not snow one single time during the outdoor shooting of this film. So we manufactured snow. And according to Variety magazine, which is an industry magazine for the film industry, here are the records that we set in filming this. 720,000 pounds of ice. Like shaved ice, right? 18,750 feet of snow blanket that we would just roll over lawns and things like that. 750 gallons of foam, which you often put out there right before you were shooting because the lights glistened off of it really nice and made it look really pretty. 375 gallons in reserve to finish the picture, so we were good to go if we needed to shoot some more. Here's one I'll bet you didn't see coming. 4,000 pounds of potato flakes. Potato flakes. When we would shoot outside and there were potato flakes from the day before and it was 72, 75 degrees the next day, it stunk to high heaven. It was amazing, just rotting potatoes. And like 30-pound boxes of plastic snow, which was also used in like real close-ups when you needed snow to be actually falling. So let's go to this scene and keep this in mind that every bit of snow you see at the beginning of the scene is one of the above kinds of snow.
How you kids doing, huh?
Kieran Culkin on the right. So here's my Catherine O'Hara story, okay? Jeannie also worked on this film, but this time in production. She was a PA, especially when we did, you remember the scene in the airport where they're running through the airport? She was a PA working there, so was I. And by then I had gotten to know Catherine O'Hara fairly well because I was with those kids a lot, and she liked to check in on the kids too. And I was talking about how Jeannie and I were dating, and we were probably going to get married, and she thought that was really cute and everything. And we were talking about Jeannie's mom, and she said, "I'd like to give Jeannie's mom some advice." Like, this is terrifying. Sure, okay, this sounds good. And she wrote this letter to give to Anne, Jeannie's mom. Went like this. "Dear Anne, your wonderful future son-in-law has asked me to write to you on his behalf. Please reconsider your position on the relationship between Bob and your lovely daughter Jean. He really is quite a catch, and I'd set my cap for him if I had half a brain. Sincerely, Catherine O'Hara." That's when I knew I was, in good with Jeannie and her mom. That was a... Oh, yes. Yeah. It was a real blowtorch, but there was all kinds of safety gel and everything that was not his real head right there. And if you look, they cut a few times really quickly, so you're not watching him get for a really long time. Most of the time, it's done really quickly in the editing. But was that getting to you? Was that bothering you? Yeah.
You know the part where he sticks his head in the snow and it starts like singeing?
Yes.
Real snow, or does it just?
That was the real frozen ice, chipped ice that we used. And they also can run little tubes in there that will have steam come out or fog come out. So when it, they put that sound in there after the fact in post-production, and then you see steam come up, and it all happens so quick, you go like, oh, wow. That's, Hollywood magic, right? While we're at it, since you brought it up, you didn't ask this particular question, but here's an interesting thing that happened in that movie. Do you remember the scene where he goes into his mean brother's room and he climbs up the shelves and he pulls them all down and they fall down and the spider gets out? Okay, first of all, real spider. But second of all, you don't think Macaulay Culkin climbed up those shelves and fell backwards onto the floor, right? They had a stuntman for that. They had a stuntman who was about 3.5 feet tall. He was just about exactly his size. And he did a lot of stunts in that show. Every time you see Mac doing something like going on that toboggan down the stairs and everything, every time it's something that would be too dangerous for a kid to do, he was our stuntman. It was pretty cool. He was a nice guy. He was very good at his job, too. All right. Yes? It takes years to do pre-production, to plan it all out, to get the schedule together. It took about 58 shooting days to make this film, and then it takes months to edit. So from the time you start writing it and getting the wheels in motion to when it's actually put in theaters is usually at least a year.
But with the actual film, it was only 3 months.
For that, yeah. I think it's different these days because so many films are so much longer. This is about a 90-minute film. The longer the film, the more shooting days you need. And also there's so many things out there now that are episodic that, have many, many episodes that shoot for like 2 years at a time. Yeah, so here I am with Catherine, and here I am with Jeannie. She's got her little headset on. She was getting ready to go work at O'Hare that day, and come on, there we go. This is what was going on at O'Hare that day. We were shooting at O'Hare Airport when they were running through trying to catch that plane to Paris. And all of these people, the camera is right here looking that way and going as fast as it can in the opposite direction, okay? So our jobs, like this guy and these people, we were there to make sure nobody got in the way. A handful of these people, like the ones who are standing here, know that they need to start acting when the camera gets past them and can see them. But the vast majority of people here were just trying to catch a plane. And it was our job to say, I'm sorry, you can't go through there, we're shooting. And it was just like, oh yeah? So it was tough duty, it was tough sledding. So in this photo, I've enlarged it. That's me with the Spam t-shirt on, looking like I mean business, right? You don't want to get in the way. There is a huge camera dolly on here, and people are running and they're not looking. Move, move, move. Yeah, that was a crazy day. How am I doing on time, by the way? I'm supposed to be done by 4, right? I'm not going to make, no. You've seen some big name films that I've done so far. Here's one that was not. This was a horror film that we shot in 1 month. The entire budget on it was $1 million. And half of that was special effects for our monster. Elke Summer was in it. Do you remember her? A Bond girl. Okay, we had her in the film. Oliver Reed. Garrett Morris from SNL. They were all in this film. It was so much fun. It was the strangest, oddest little film. You haven't seen it, I almost guarantee it. You can watch it on YouTube, but don't do it right after you've eaten. It's bloody and gory and weird. But I had so much fun making it. It was a blast. I want to pause here just for a second to make sure you fully understand what's happening here. This is the heart and soul of this film and the plot. He is doing these experiments on something called a labzard, a lab lizard. And he wants to be able to regenerate limbs. Okay? So he's working with these lizards, and he will cut their tails off and then get the gene sequencing and other mumbo-jumbo going and find that these lizards, these labzards, can regenerate their tails. Okay? But when he finds out from his evil mother's friend, boyfriend, Oliver Reed, he's going to take over the lab and turn it over to the military. Oh, he wanted to just like do good for people. He didn't want it to become something that the military would use. So in this scene, he has just gotten his arm severed in an elevator, because that's a thing that happens. And he takes out the serum that he just happened to have in his lab pocket and injects it into his arm. And it regenerates part tail, part arm. You're all in, right? Yeah. Could happen. Could happen. He's a genius. Oh, forgot one minor detail. This arm can leap out of the socket and attack people that don't like him. It's important to note this was not a comedy. Let me get to the next thing here. Man, I've just got to figure out how this works. The people who did the arm and the lizard and all that thing, they actually made about 8 different arms that did different things, and they all had different names. The ones that could motivate, themselves, or the ones that had all kinds of detail, the ones that had a tail and the ones where you couldn't see the tail. Greg Nicotero and Howard Berger were the ones who had $500,000 out of our $1 million budget to do all that stuff. And they went on, if you were to look them up on the Internet Movie Database, you would see dozens and dozens of big films. They've won Oscars for special effects many, many times. And this is one of their first jobs. And we were there with them. Yes?
Were they able to recoup their $1 million investment?
I'm pretty sure they did, actually. VHS, booming industry that it was. I don't think it did much of anything at the box office. I think it did something like 300,000 or something like that. But it's not that much money to spend on a film, strangely enough. Even back then in 1980, every dollar on the screen. All right, The Replacements. This was a film that we actually shot in PSI Net Stadium in Baltimore. Keanu Reeves and Gene Hackman. Jon Favreau is a wonderful actor in this, who also has gone on to do a lot of directing, like some of the Spider-Man films, Iron Man. He's a terrific director as well as a good actor. The scene that you're going to see here is one of the best days I ever had on a film set in 12 years. We were shooting at this stadium. We rehearsed the end of this film, the big, scoring the touchdown and winning the day and everything. Again, spoiler alert, but we practiced where Navy has their practice field in Annapolis. So we practiced for a couple weeks running all these plays. One of the things that I was in charge of on this film, because I do background actors, was all the photographers and press people and football players that are on the bench that are not on the field, but you still have to see them in the shot. Anywhere you turn a camera, you should be able to see, what you would see during a real NFL game. And we shot this at halftime of a preseason game for the Ravens. It's the only time that we did it. We had like 11 minutes It was like when you watch the halftime show, you know, when Beyonce or somebody is out there and everyone just goes flying out there and sets everything up and then does the show and then flies off the field. It was our Super Bowl. And we ran out there and we shot what you're going to see here. And we did it in one take because it's all we had. And we nailed it. It was so cool. I mean, oh, one other part of the story. Humble brag here, but you paid to get in here, not me. No? They told us ahead of time, especially the background actors, don't look up into the stands or you'll get kind of freaked out and you'll forget what you're supposed to do. You're going to forget what you rehearsed. But I felt pretty confident in where I was at. You know, I was good to go. So, and they made a little announcement right at the end of, you know, as the clock ran out in the first half and we were in the, you know, ready to bolt out onto the field, they came on the PA system and said, we're shooting a film for Warner Brothers here. It's called The Replacements. You are going to be the home crowd rooting for the team in red. So when you see something good happen on the field, cheer. And if something bad happens, feel free to boo. And that was all they said. Okay, so I got all my guys set up and everybody's in place and the guys are getting on the field, getting ready, and we're just about ready to go. And I decided to look up and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. But everybody's just kind of sitting, looking. So I was like, come on, people, come on. And people started getting rowdy. And it was like the wave, it went around the place, and the place just lit up. And then we started doing this scene. Okay, on to, and I guess I'm close to the end. I also worked on the film that I was plugging shamelessly before, The River Wild. This is Meryl Streep and Kevin Bacon. There were helicopters had a huge role in each and every single day. We shot on the white waters of the Kootenai River in Montana outside of Libby. And every single day, every piece of equipment that came to the set where we were shooting came in by helicopter. Every person came in, lunch came in, porta potties came in, camera equipment, every single thing. And it was all taken out and brought back to base camp at the end of every shooting day. Okay, every day. I had well over 100 helicopter flights on that film, and it was a blast. This shot here on the left is how people got to the set. If you look up here, there's white water back here, okay? This river is just rocking right here. And a helicopter would come in and just land here on those pads. And you would scramble out low because right over you and get in that raft and then wait for it to take off again. And the first time I came to set, I didn't know that this was here. I thought we were going to land in a field. So I'm in the thing, and it's, you know, those helicopters that they use on films have a lot of plexiglass, like all the way down to your feet. So we're coming in, and I see water on my right, and I see a cliff on the left. And I don't even see that exactly until we're just about on it. And I thought, wow, these people are all really calm for someone who's about to crash a copter with me on it. But we landed, and we got down, and I watched it fly away, and I'm like, oh, this is good. This is going to be fun. This is the only picture I have with Meryl Streep, because I did something on this show, which was a lot of second unit stuff, which was stunt shooting. We used her double and the other people who were in the raft with her. We used their stunt doubles and shot for like 2 months while they did a lot of stuff. I mean, she was in a raft a lot, but when it got into some really crazy whitewater stuff, you don't put Meryl Streep in that kind of peril. Here's one of the better examples of a stunt that we did on this film. This raft has Meryl Streep and the stunt player who played Meryl Streep's double. Her son was in this, little guy, like 11 years old. We had a double for him who was an Eastern European gymnast. who was about this big and was rock solid. And Kevin Bacon and John C. Reilly's characters who were kidnapping them, they had doubles as well. So they're all in here going over this, and this is a boat that had a camera on it to shoot it as it came down right in front of them. So a lot of safety issues here, as you can imagine. But wait, there's more. This was wild. This was easily the craziest thing we did. There was a section here where there was a huge waterfall. We had a helicopter attach cables to this gimbal, run the lines down to the raft, fly over and set them in the water. And then they go down the water and they would go over that fall with real people in it. It was wild, it was scary, but it was well planned, and we did it, and it was amazing. It was so much fun. This person is here to make sure that if anybody gets pitched out, he's going in after them. I mean, there was a lot of precautions, but there's no question it was like the most hazardous day I ever had in my life on a set. I mean, there's a helicopter up here, and it didn't let go of them. It held them the whole time. We had to be really careful that we had to be sure that it didn't pull the raft into the water and therefore put the helicopter at risk. So just another day at the office on the River Wild, yes. It's a really good question for Jeannie. At times, I think she thought I was ruining film watching for her because I would keep pointing these things out all the time. Like every time you're watching a nighttime exterior shot, you're out on roads, it's wet on the roads, whether it was raining or not. It's always wet. That's because we sent a crew through to wet it down so that lights would shine off it and make it look pretty. I do find myself a lot looking at things thinking, wow, how did they do that? I haven't done this now for 25 years, right? My last film was in 99 or 2000 or something, and I went on to be a teacher for the last 20-something years. And I got a chance to visit the site or the set of House of Cards when it first came out. And I looked at what they were doing, and it was so different. I mean, it's so much of it is done with CGI. So much of it is done. Just a simple drive down the street is almost never on the street. It's on a set somewhere, and they've got lights that make it look like they're reflecting off windshields and windows, and they've got rear projections of what you would see if you were looking out the window, but they're not. It's easier to do, in a sense. It's easier to just sit in a car on the set without having to worry about resetting to your first position all the time, without having to worry about traffic, without having to worry about whether all those cars behind you lined up the same way they were in the previous shot. So you just sit there and record on the set. And we didn't have that luxury. And there's so many things like that that are just done through computer imagery. I'd be lost. I'd be completely lost if I tried to get back into that industry now. Thank God I'm retired in so many ways. The only thing that we CGI'd out in this were the lines coming off of the gimbal. That was it. That raft actually did what we wanted it to do. Oh, the other brush with fame that has nothing to do with motion pictures. You remember that we just got a new pope recently. Well, as it turns out, Bob Prevost is his name, and I went to high school with him. Wow. Yeah. Now we're talking. No copters, no nothing. So when I was a young man of high school age, I thought that I wanted to be a priest. And I went to a seminary. There was a boarding school, Catholic boarding school called St. Augustine in Holland, Michigan. I grew up in Chicago. Holland was right up the lake from us. And I was there freshman year, very lonely, living away from home, But, I thought that was what I needed to do. Bob Prevost was a senior when I was a freshman. So I actually had a lot of contact with him, and he was one of those guys, one of those seniors that really took charge and tried to help all the freshmen feel better about being away from home for the first time at age 13. And then I wasn't even following the whole Pope thing that closely because I didn't think there was a chance that an American was going to be in. I didn't even know Bob was really in the running until my daughter sent me a text that said, "You could have been the first Pope Bob." And I'm like, wow, that's obscure, you know. And I looked and it's like, wow, I'm pretty sure that's him. And then I got out my yearbook, and yeah, that's him. So when I found the yearbook, I don't know, you can tell I don't shy away from attention or anything. I called WBZ, that's who we watch all the time, you know, David Wade and Lisa Hughes, and said, hey, turns out I went to high school with the Pope. You think there's a story in there? And they're like, huh. I said, I got a yearbook. And they're like, oh. So they came out to the house. Well, thank you all for being here. Really appreciate it. And thank you for having me.